Hello, everyone. I'm going to be doing an audio recording of the reproductive system because we always have a lot to cover every week, and this gives us more time to do some other interactive opportunities in the classroom and for me to answer a lot of your burning questions. So anyway, welcome to Reproductive Health, and this is basic stuff. Most of this is a review for a lot of you that have taken any type of biology, advanced biology, definitely genetics too. So anyway, we will start with, what do you think? The male and reproductive systems. Do you suppose they're undifferentiated or differentiated for about the first weeks of gestation? What do you think? Basically, they're undifferentiated for the first 8 weeks. That's true. Now, not to say that the genetic sex of the embryo is determined at fertilization. We know that. It's either an XX or an XY. But the whole mass itself, if you will, remains undifferentiated for at least the first 8 weeks. During the 5th week of gestation, a primitive gonad arises from the intermediate mesoderm tissue, and the gonad develops from the medulla, the inner part of the organ, and the cortex, which is the outer part of the organ. In genetic males, during the 7th to 8th week, the medulla develops into a testes, and that would be the inner part of the organ, and the cortex regresses or pulls apart. In genetic females, by about the 10th week, the cortex, so it's kind of opposite here. The cortex, which is the outer part, develops into an ovary, and the medulla regresses. So there you go. Hence, other changes between the sexes immediately, where we don't even know we're here yet. So we have rapid dramatic changes as the reproductive organs differentiate into recognizable structures. So again, a little bit of a review. We'll see in the objectives for a little bit here. Mitosis versus meiosis. What are we talking about? Well, mitosis, we know, is a process where additional somatic body cells are formed. It provides growth and development of organs and replacement of body cells. So it's one-stage cell division. The two daughter cells are identical to the mother cell, with each with the diploid number with the 46 chromosomes. The purpose is produce cells for growth and tissue repair, which we all have. The cell division, again, one-stage cell division. The number of daughter cells is going to be 2, and again, identical to the mother cell. And so that's mitosis. So what's meiosis? Meiosis basically determines the sex cells. They're not, all of us have the same somatic cells, both male and female. Meiosis is a little different. It's a special type of cell division by which diploid cells give rise to gametes, and gametes, or gametes, however you want to say it, are sex cells, which is either the ovum, which encompasses the ovary, or the sperm, and that equals a zygote. They contain half the genetic material of the parent cell, only 23 chromosomes, so haploid means half. Formed during gametogenesis, and gametogenesis is the term, it's the process by which germ cells or gametes are produced. That's gametogenesis. So meiosis is formed, gametogenesis, because it has to do with the sex cells, belongs to meiosis versus mitosis. So formed during gametogenesis, which is either oogenesis or spermatogenesis, which makes sense, right? Either the egg formation or the sperm formation, consists of 2 successful cell divisions which produce a gamete with 23 chromosomes. So it's 22 chromosomes and 1 sex chromosome. We have 23 from the mother and 23 from the father. 2 successive cell divisions. The purpose of meiosis is to produce reproductive cells, or gametes, reduction of chromosome number by half from diploid to 46 to haploid 23, so that when fertilization occurs, the normal diploid number is restored. It introduces genetic variability, and that is why we don't look identical to our brothers and sisters, but we may look a lot like them. The second reason is for cell division, 2-step reduction, and the third is the number of daughter cells. We have 4 daughter cells, each containing half of the number of chromosomes as the mother cells, or 23 chromosomes, non-identical to the original cell. So that's the difference between meiosis and mitosis. Gametogenesis, I think I already talked about. Gametes, ovum from the female, sperm from the male, and that equals the zygote. Zygote has 46 chromosomes. We have the zygote. We have half from the mother, half from the father, 22 chromosomes from the mom, 22 chromosomes from the dad, and then we have one sex chromosome from the mom, one sex chromosome from the dad. So there's 23 and 23, which to me, a whole person, we have 46. Just want to talk a minute about identical twins. They're monozygotic or one, and that's identical. Dizygotic twins are fraternal twins because dizygotic means there's two separate ova fertilized by two separate spermatozoa. The monozygotic results from fertilization of one ovum that divides the same genetic material. And just again, a little bit of a review. Sex chromosomes are referred to as X or Y. Females, we know, have two X chromosomes. Males have an X and a Y. Y chromosomes are carried only by sperm. Okay, let's talk about ovaries versus testes. Again, a review. Oocytes are primitive eggs, the process of oogenesis. 150,000 oocytes are in ovaries at birth. So very interesting. That's what the mom is given for her entire life, is that 150,000. An ovum, we're going to refer to in this lecture as a fertilizable egg. Ovulation is when the ovum is released from its follicle and it's in hopes of becoming fertilized. Every egg available for maturation for a woman is with her when she is born. During fetal life for the female, the ovary goes through oogonia, cells that become primitive eggs called oocytes by the process of oogenesis. No oocytes are formed after fetal development. Isn't that interesting? So about 150,000 oocytes are contained in the ovaries at birth. Just to sum that up. Each oocyte is contained in a small ovarian cavity called a primitive follicle. Every month during a female's reproductive years, one of the oocytes undergoes a process of cellular division and maturation that transforms it into a fertilizable egg or ovum. At ovulation, the ovum is released from its follicle. The remaining follicles and oocytes degenerate over time. And then testes, fetal testes secrete two hormones. Testosterone, which we're all pretty familiar with, it stimulates the mesonephric ducts to develop into the male genital tract. And then the other one that's probably not so common to you, it's called the Müllerian regression factor. And just like it says, it regresses. It suppresses the development of the paramesonephric ducts. And what are those? What are the paramesonephric ducts? Well, they're the ones that develop into the female genital tract. Remember, they're undifferentiated in the beginning. So they have testosterone and they have this MRF factor or Müllerian regression factor because they want it to be a boy. So they suppress those paramesonephric ducts, which will develop into the female genital tract. Spermatogenesis, just like oogenesis for the egg, it's the generation of spermatozoa or sperm. And the difference between the eggs all being there at birth, the sperm does not occur until the onset of puberty. We know generally boys mature physically 2 years later than girls. Puberty lasts for about 1.5 to 5 years and presents with profound physical, psychological, and emotional changes for both sexes. Okay, here we are. These are the external organs of the female, and they are known collectively as the vulva. Anything on the outside is known as the vulva. Which you can read there what they are. And then the internal reproductive organs, let's talk about that for just a minute because that's we're going to dive right into this. Ovaries are female germ cells and female sex where female sex hormones are formed. Primary source of two important hormones are estrogen and progesterone. Estrogens are associated with characters contributing to femaleness. They make women look like women. The breast, alveolar development, so forth and so on. Progesterone, and this is what you need to circle, bold it, look at it. Just remember the PR goes with pregnancy also, is a hormone of pregnancy. Its effects on the uterus allow pregnancy to be maintained. The placenta is the primary source of progesterone during pregnancy. Fallopian tubes, they capture the ovum. That's where it's fertilized and allows it transport to the uterus. It can take up to 3 to 4 days. It provides the site for fertilization. Is going to be in those fimbriae that hang off the fallopian tube, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. It serves as a warm, moist, nourishing environment for the ovum or zygote, which is, again, is the fertilized egg. And the uterus, that's pretty. We know it's a highly, very dense muscular organ. Is the implantation site for the fertilized ovum or blastocyst. It's a hollow, muscular, thick-walled organ shaped like an upside-down pear. It lies in the center of the pelvic cavity between the base of the bladder and the rectum. And that's why a lot of times women have all kinds of problems with rectocele, cystocele, all kinds of things because of pregnancy, basically. And it's because of where it lies. It's between the bladder and the rectum. It's right in the middle. So it pushes everything out of the way, and it can cause problems. And above the vagina. The body of the uterus moves freely. Only the cervix is what's anchored down. Other than that, the uterus can move. Cervix, we know, is a protective for the portal of the uterus and the connection between the vagina and the uterus. Elasticity is the chief characteristic of the cervix. Its ability to stretch is due to the high fibrous and collagenous content of the supportive tissues and also to the vast number of folds in the cervical lining because it's folded over like a hot dog bun, very tightly closed, and it's got to open to 10 centimeters so that that baby can come out. And then the vagina we're going to refer to as the birth canal. Muscular, again, and membranous tube that connects the external genitalia, which we refer to as the vulva, with the uterus. The passageway from the external genitals to the uterus provides for discharge of menstrual products to the outside of the body and, obviously, a baby. Okay, pelvic types. Let's look at this here. We've got the gynecoid, which is the most common female pelvis. The android is a normal male pelvis. Now, I don't know why, gals, this is the way it happened, but you can see with the android, it's shaped like a heart. And so with that in mind, it's the inlet, the anterior, posterior, and transverse diameters are adequate for birth, but the posterior sagittal diameter is too short. It's just too short, and the anterior sagittal diameter is very long. The descent into the pelvis during labor is slow. The fetal head usually engages in the transverse or occipital posterior diameter. So it's got an oblique presentation or kind of sideways. And so a lot of times if we do have a female with that heart pelvis, they have to be born C-section. The gynecoid is the most common. Let's see, I had the percents. I don't have it. Oh, there it is. 50% of women have the gynecoid, which is more associated for birth. Okay, I'm going to stop right here with pelvic types because we're going to run out of time. So I will do another video shortly.